The Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. My name is Joni Siegel, and I'm the host for this podcast. My husband, Steve Siegel, is the producer of the podcast. Today's episode is episode number 274. Just a reminder to please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. Also, check us out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and give our videos a thumbs up. If you have interest in advertising on our podcast, please reach out to us. We are over 500,000 downloads now with the podcast. And the nice thing about advertising on a podcast is that it's evergreen. So while today's video will go up on a certain date, it will be forever in the archives. And if you advertise, your ad will be forever in the archives. And when people go back and listen to earlier podcasts, your ad will be there. Just a suggestion. Today we have an interview with a gentleman named Jonny Martin. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a lot about Jonny's story, except that he's a former addict and he's now clean and sober. So you and I together will get the details of Jonny's story. Let's talk to Jonny Martin. Jonny Martin, Jonathan Martin, Jonny Martin. I know you like Jonny. Thank you for being on the podcast today and sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Awesome. So you take us back to, where did you grow up? I really don't know very much about you. As I said in your intro, I said, I know he was a former addict and now he's clean and sober, but I don't know anything else. But tell us, give us your background. Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Miami in Florida, and I kind of bounced around. I want to say I technically grew up in Alaska, in Soldotna.
Why did you bounce around? Was that family job or your dad or?
No, so I never really met my biological father. I lived with my mom, and at 7 years old, so my mom's Colombian, and I got separated from her because, she did something, with the Colombian and the 1980s, trafficking. And so she paid her dues. And so I got separated from my mom, and I kind of went from house to house to house and eventually ended up in Alaska.
And that was with a foster home?
No, so I was very fortunate. I was able to go from Miami to Orlando with one of my mom's sisters, and then from Orlando to New Jersey with one of her younger brothers. And then when my mom got out, she asked for me, and I went down to Colombia when I was about 10 years old, reunited with my mom. And then at almost 14, I went from Medellin, Colombia to Alaska, where my sister married a military person in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Wow. Wow. It just, looking at where you went and where you grew up, that's quite something. And at what age did you get introduced to alcohol or drugs, whatever was the first one?
Well, at what age? I guess in high school, I started, with marijuana, with weed, with some friends at parties and drinking. And then after that, I never really messed with it because I got a scholarship for soccer, and messing around in Washington with opioids, but nothing too crazy. And
but hold on. Sorry, I will interrupt you now and again. So you got a scholarship for soccer. That was for college, right?
Correct.
And previous to your scholarship, you were pretty much just doing marijuana, or were you already doing opioids?
No, I was just messing around with marijuana. That's all I was really doing in high school, and at the house parties, drinking. I never really got into anything, deeper than that. It was just marijuana at the time.
So how'd you get introduced to opioids?
So a buddy of mine, he was a super good friend of mine. In one of the soccer games, he broke his leg, and so the doctor prescribed him opioids, and we just started breaking them down and snorting them, and we loved the high. And it wasn't anything where at that time I was like, oh man, I love this, I just want to keep doing it. No, it was just kind of recreational at that time. And once I left college though, and I got into the oil field in Alaska, because I left Washington, I went back to Alaska and got into the oil field. I knew I was going to constantly be drug tested. So I was clean for a very long time. and we would always get random UAs.
Okay. So you were, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That's the kind of occupation where they do drug testing, I think.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you clean there when you were working in the oil fields? How long was that? What period of time?
So, uh, I mean, I got in the oil field. I became a crane operator at like 21 years old, running cranes on platforms and on land, onshore. And I was clean for probably to about 27, 28 years old. So 6 years. I'd you know, always get drug tested, always come out negative. But then I met my wife, and at the time, here and there, we would smoke weed and pop pills every once in a while at parties. And I knew I had a relationship with my boss where I knew he would tell me when I was going to get a UA. So I kind of knew how much time or how much water I should be consuming to clean my system. So I kind of had like a little, maybe like a cheat sheet
Mm.
per se.
Okay. So you still could kind of get by on your job.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you say that at that point, with your wife and doing the pills and stuff, would you say you were heading into addiction? You were addicted? Was it still
Man, so
recreational?
it was recreational, but the moment it went from recreational to becoming addicted was my ex-wife received an inheritance, and it was a lot of money. I had a home. We sold our home. We built a custom home to our liking, and she retired, or she quit her job. She was a registered nurse, and now she has X amount of money. And so one thing led to another, as far as like at first it was a shopping addiction. She was just shopping, filling the house, like miscellaneous things that I had no idea what they were and why they looked pretty or cool or decoration. And um, so she quit her job and she had nothing to do. I kept working in the oil field, and I just noticed that she was just spending quite a bit of money. I tried talking to her, but at the same time, I figured, this is her money. I make my money, and I'm not going to tell her how to really spend her money. As long as we're paying the bills, I thought that was okay. But the moment that I became addicted to pills was the moment that one day I was looking for something in our room, and I opened up a drawer, and I found aluminum foil and what appeared to be like a plastic part, like a tube of the pen, and it was like resin. And so I smelt it, and I asked her, and I kind of right there knew what she was doing. And so I asked her, I called her out on it, and she said, it's not that big of a deal. Here, you should try. And I was thinking, all right, I'm going to try do reverse psychology, have her see that now her husband's doing it, and this is probably a bad idea. So I tried it in front of her, and I just remember the taste for me was kind of like a burnt marshmallow. And I looked at her and I said, this isn't that bad. You're right. And
What was that? Was it cocaine?
no, it was oxys.
Okay.
So we started doing oxys together, and I remember shortly after that weekend we rented a hotel in Anchorage to get away from Soldotna, which is like a 2.5 hour drive. And we stayed in Anchorage, and we just went shopping and bought clothes, and we were smoking pills like in parking lots and just having fun. And then in the hotel room, we were just constantly smoking. I just remember the feeling of it, just nodding off and like waking up. I just remember like, wow, like I felt amazing. Like my body didn't hurt. I was next to my wife. We had money. We were eating good. Everything was, quote unquote, in parentheses, everything was good, but it really wasn't. It was just the start.
Okay. So then how did it progress from there? And typically what we know with some of the addicts or most of the addicts we've talked to, it may seem good now, but then kind of isn't so good. So tell me how it progressed from there.
So it started progressing where, man, well, first off, I found out that in Alaska, you get the 30s, the 30 milligrams, we called them birds. And 10 of those were selling on the street for $500. And we were constantly, I mean, we were going through way more than that in a day. So I had an old back injury from sports, from working out in the gym, and I knew that I could go to the doctor and just, tell him my back's hurting. I mean, which my back does hurt, and I could manipulate the situation to get what I want. And that's exactly what happened. So I started getting my prescription, and my ex-wife, she was buying it from a friend, and we just constantly had plenty. But with having plenty, of course, our what's the word? Our consumption kept going up, right? Our body was wanting more because now
Your
what
need
two or
goes up.
three
Yeah. Yep.
correct. Yeah. So now like two or three doesn't do it, 4 or 5 doesn't do it. Before, I know we're spending more than a few $1,000s a day, smoking these and sharing it with friends. And now I'm saying, okay, I need to go to my doctor and tell him I need more because I feel like I'm consuming more than what he told me. And I knew how to manipulate at that time. So I knew where we were going. I knew that we were already climbing, I guess, per se, the ladder of addiction.
Understood. Did you guys have kids?
No, she has a kid. So he's, I think 19 or 20 right now, but when at that time he was living with us, he was a teenager. Um, of course we never did anything in front of him, or we never try to make it to where he would maybe acknowledge or think that something was going on. But of
So
course he's a teenager,
I was going to say, so
he's
you don't think he knew? I think he
no,
probably absolutely did know.
yeah, he had to have known because I mean, I remember when we caught him with marijuana, right? So we caught him with marijuana by me, snooping around his backpack. And so I'm sure, whenever we would take away his iPad or Xbox, he would snoop in our room and probably find certain paraphernalia. So I know, it hurts to say now.
Understood. So when did you decide to get clean? I mean, I know we talked about it before we were on air. The point of one of the points of this podcast is, and you may not be there yet, so tell us when you get there, is what's the point at which you realized you actually had to do something about this?
So it was our needs were, our body wanted more. And I remember we would travel to Los Angeles and hang out, and we thought we took enough, and we had our, my stepson at the time, we had her kid with us, and we were celebrating my ex-wife's birthday, and we were at a hotel, and I remember we were running out, and we were just, having hot sweats, and so we literally had a friend just fly from Alaska to Los Angeles, come hang out with us, as long as she brought us what our body was requesting, what our body was wanting was opioids. And so her friend flew down, and we had, her friend was an addict just like us, and fortunately she was able to come out of it. And she's very successful today, and I'm happy for her. But when I really knew that it was getting to be bad was when I would have arguments with my ex-wife and manipulating her for maybe the last pill, right? Like we didn't, I ran out of all my prescription. I used hers. She didn't want to go to her friends anymore to pick any more up, but I could manipulate her. And I just remember on my 3 weeks off, since I had a script, I didn't care being at work. I was abusing at work. I was running crank, operating heavy equipment, machinery. And I just knew I was getting bad because I was hiding. She would send me care kits and hide them in cupcakes. And I just knew that we were already doing too much to figure out ways to bring the pills and sneak them in where work couldn't figure it out. And I remember just hiding in engine compartments and smoking these pills and then nodding off, and then people like yelling at me, "Hey Johnny, you okay? Wake up." And it's luckily I never got caught, and luckily I never harmed anyone. I really got lucky.
And luckily you didn't die, because you're doing heavy
Yeah.
machinery like that. That could be really bad. How much do you think you were taking about that time? How many milligrams would you say if you had to guess?
Oh man, if I had to guess, well, my breakfast, like I literally, like how some people charge their phone and their phone is charging right next to them in bed, and you wake up and your phone's next to you. Well, I would wake up and I had a roll of foil. That was what was right next to me. And I would have to wake up, and in order for me to get out of bed and move and to do anything, I'd say my breakfast was literally 10 or 12 pills, smoking them,
Wow.
crushing them up and smoking. And then I can get up and shower and then make breakfast. And then again, since I made breakfast, I was like, oh, I'm going to reward myself and smoke another 5. I mean, it was up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So still haven't gotten there yet to your point of no return, but it's getting bad. So tell us how it progressed from there.
All right. So from there, I remember I tried getting clean. I said, enough is enough.
Okay. So you're hiding it, you're running heavy equipment, what made you quit? I mean, what was your point there where you went, I got to stop this?
So at that point, I just remembered I was constantly arguing with my wife. We weren't getting along anymore. It was just, we were both having the needs. And I just felt like, man, what's the purpose of this marriage? So I need to clean up. So I remember I asked her for a separation, and I took a job out in the inlet in Alaska, running a crawler crane on a barge. And I figured, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take anything with me. I'm going to keep a routine. I'm going to go to the gym and do what I have to do. And so I separated myself, and I was getting clean, right? I'm out in the barge. I'm not abusing. I'm not thinking about it. I'm doing what I told myself I was going to do, which was work out and work, long hours and work. Just stay occupied is key. And so one day I get a phone call from, my then wife, and she was crying to me, and she said, she misses me and that she got robbed, and that her dealers had went to the house when they were having a house party, and they scoped out the house, and they locked her up in the room and tied her up, and they just stole a bunch of my hunting equipment, a bunch of her jewelry. And so I felt bad. I said, you know what, if I'm getting clean, I could probably help her get clean, and we can come out, together. And so my hitch got done at work. I went back to the house. I told her, hey, I'm doing really good. I'm getting cleaned, and I'm going to help you out. And so we were trying to do the best we could to live, a happy life. And then I relapsed. I went back to the doctor and did the same thing. And then she caught me, smoking them in the bathroom. And so of course she's doing it. And so when I was going back real quick, when I was on the barge, I told myself, you know what, it's time to go see my mom in Colombia. And so I haven't seen my mom in almost 17 years. I mean, I would just see her via Skype, Zoom, Messenger, whatever it was at the time. And so I bought a ticket to Colombia. So now I told my ex-wife, hey, I'm going to be going to Colombia. At that time we were separated, but if you want, you're more than welcome to come with me. And so she came to Colombia. We bought my sister a ticket to Colombia. And this was the very first time my mom has, under one roof, has had all 3 kids, my younger brother, myself, and my older sister under the same roof. And I just remembered that my sister was only there for 1 week. And the only time, I think we only had like one picture, because the 1 week she was there, all I wanted to do was look for drugs and abuse here in Medellin, Colombia. And I went to every clinic, every hospital and my mom thought that, I had really severe back problems. So I'm making my mom take me to all these places, because at the time I couldn't talk Spanish. So my mom was really scared of me catching taxis and something happened to me out in the street. So I manipulated my mom too, and my sister and my family.
Okay, fair enough. So now you're back with your ex-wife after she gets robbed and you relapse. And so Colombia was after that.
Yeah. So Colombia was
Okay,
after the relapse and everything. And now we're
understood.
abusing
O-
in Medellin.
Okay, back to that.
You are listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information on the podcast, or to reach out if you have a story you would like to share with us, go to our Facebook page by the same name, or you can email us at theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com, or go to our website, theaddictionpodcast.com, or call us at 727-314-7080. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star review. sometimes. The hardest thing about getting someone into recovery is getting them to agree to treatment. Bobby Newman, a certified drug counselor with 30 years experience and an over 85% success rate as an interventionist, has created a series of 12 videos that you can use right now to learn every step to get your loved one to agree to treatment. Call 1-833-918-0008 today and say the word podcast to get a 10% discount. Or go to newmaninterventions.com and type in the word podcast for a 10% discount. This service comes with a free 1-hour consultation with Bobby.
How and why did you get clean?
Okay, so I just remembered time went by in Medellin. We were here for a month, and I remember the whole time it was just constantly looking for drugs. So when I flew back to Alaska with my ex-wife, I remember looking back at my pictures, and I had no pictures. I had nothing with my family. And I looked over at my wife at the time, and she was strung out. You know, her eyes were behind her head and her mouth was open. She had a plate of food. And I looked at her and I said, all right, I'm done. And I went to my job. I did a few weeks on the slope. And when I came back, I didn't tell her that I was coming back early. When I came back early, I saw her with another man in bed, both abusing. Nothing sexual was happening, but it was what I needed to see, because she would always yell and say that I was arguing with her, but I wasn't. And I think at that time, I was too naive to understand that she was really far gone with these drugs. And so when I looked at her, or when I found out she was another guy, and then just more chaotic problems happened. We had cameras in the house, and she was saying that she was seeing me with other women in the house. And I was just like, man, she is making up some stories. Like, why would I bring women in the house when we have cameras? Like, and this is such a small town. And so I told my boss, my ex-boss, everything that was going on. He's like, Jonny, I'm you, you're me. And he's telling me what I told him. Like, you know, my ex-wife isn't eating. She only eats at night, which is sweets. She's arguing by herself. She's not sleeping. She's super skinny. What's your response? And I said, man, she's gone. She's a drug addict. And so at that point, I said, all right, enough is enough. I called my mom. I said, Mom, listen, I'm an addict. I'm sorry, but I promise you, I'm going to clean up. I promise I'm going to do whatever it takes. And so I did exactly whatever it took. And that was leaving my ex-boss. He's one of my idols in life. And I tell him every day, and I've told him my story. And so I had to leave my ex-boss and find a new job, which was working 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, which would allow me to fully, run equipment with a clear mind and have a gym routine. And then on my 3 weeks off, at that time, I was training in the gym, jiu-jitsu, MMA, whatever I could to just stay away from the house. And so I started getting clean, and my ex-wife was, continuing, progressing, getting worse. She put a restraining order out on me. She stole my passport, and I remember, I had footage, videos of me knocking on the door very calmly, asking, while she was locked in her room, asking for my passport. When I called the troopers, they said, sorry, we have no one that can help you. And when she called the trooper saying she was fearing for her life, and I was recording everything, they got there within 2 minutes, and it was just insane. And I got served with 30 days of restraining order. And so I was living in my truck. A buddy of mine from the gym said, hey, Jonny, come live with me. So I started living with him. I got served with another 30 days. And then she tried serving me for a year, and they denied it. And then she got arrested for stealing, shoplifting. And then at that time, I started coming to Colombia every 3 weeks on my 3 weeks off. And I think that was the best choice, because not only did I change my job, did I change where I lived, did I change my friends? It was like a circle, like where I was little, living in Colombia, my favorite memories, and everything circled back to where it all started for me, where I was at my happiest. And now I live in Medellin, Colombia. So
okay, and so you didn't go to rehab, you just stopped, right?
Okay, so what happened? Yes, correct. So I just stopped. I told my mom, I told my sister, I told, my boss, I told people. And what I did was, when I took this new job, I took Suboxones with me.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I remember my ex-wife, when we were signing the paperwork for my new position, I told her, listen, like, I need to quit and I'm really scared and I'm nervous. And she goes, hey, why don't you try these Suboxones? So-and-so does this. I said, okay, whatever it takes, I'm doing it. And so I would break them up in quarters, first thing in the morning, during lunchtime, midday again, and then at nighttime. And for me, this was for me, and I'm very fortunate it happened this way. It only took me about 5 days to a week.
Oh, okay.
And after that, I kept my routine. I kept going to the gym. I kept staying motivated. I just kept occupied. That was the key for me, because when I wasn't occupied, um, I would crave. I would have cravings. So I just knew that I had an addicted personality. So I had to stay busy.
Okay, but you're not doing Suboxone now, are you?
No, 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 no.
No.
I
Okay.
haven't touched opioids or Suboxones in 4 years.
Well, just very well done on being clean and
Thank
sober
you.
for 4 years. I know it's not easy, but that was why I had asked you if you'd done rehab, because I know that there is something called dope sick, and that's typically what happens. But you were able to handle that with Suboxone and keep it kind of as a low dose. I mean, we have heard from people who continue on Suboxone, and I don't think it's meant to be a long-term thing. So, well done, you getting clean and sober. That's what's
Thank you.
important. And tell us what you're doing now, because you got some pretty exciting things that you do to keep clean and sober, kind of keep you focused.
Yeah, so I came down to Medellin, Colombia, and I was coming here every 3 weeks. We during quarantine, we were all in our apartments or houses or wherever we were, and my friends just bought mountain bikes, and we all started with mountain bikes. And I would be at work, because at that time I couldn't come back to Colombia, so they would send me videos of doing these epic climbs on these mountains, and then talking about PRs, like personal records, and I said, how hard can it really be to pedal a bike? It can't be that hard. I'm in great shape. I can do this, right? So finally, Colombia opens up. I show up. I buy a mountain bike. And I'm at this time, I mean, I was bodybuilding and I was pretty heavy and thick and lean. And I get on this bike and I'm climbing and I am cramping up. 5 minutes, I cramp up. And I look at my friends and they're just climbing like nothing. And I really wanted to throw this bike off this mountain, but I needed it to come back down.
Yeah.
So I told myself, keep with it. My friend said, keep with it. And so I did. I kept with it. And then I bought a road bike, kind of like the ones you see in Tour de France.
Okay.
So I buy this Tour de France road bike, and now I'm watching all my times. Doing PRs, and I'm stoked, right? And now I'm beating my friends. I'm very competitive. And now I'm looking at this bike, and when I'm doing these climbs, I'm suffering because it hurts. But these climbs teach me that in order to get to the top, you have to go forward. Like, that's it. There's no other option. You have to keep pedaling. So I kept looking at everything, and I said, I had to go through my divorce. I had to become addicted. This happened to me, but now I'm back in Colombia. Now I get to see my mom. Not every 3 weeks I see my mom. And before, it was 17 years, and everything needed to happen, but I needed to keep going forward, right? So I kept going forward. And then one day I decided to do what they call the world's longest climb in Colombia. And it took me 5.5 hours. No, I did not stop pedaling. And after I achieved that, I just looked at everything else like, what else can I do? What else can I see and make a challenge for myself and continue to progress? Well, at that time I met my business partner now, and he's a pro cyclist, and we met riding, and he looked at my size, and he looked at me and he goes, I don't think you really ride. I said, just try me. And so we went out on a bike ride, and we were doing some really good climbs, and he goes, okay, you're really strong, and I'm going to teach you. And we just kept clicking, because we both had some traumatic problems, growing up. He had a very similar story, and we just clicked like brothers. And he asked me what my goals were in life. And my goals were in life were to help as many people as I can possibly help while I'm here. And so he goes, that's funny, because that's exactly how I think. And
Wow.
so one thing, things started falling in place. We came up with this business opportunity. We call it, this is our logo, La Villa Medellin, and it's a boutique hotel for cycling. And we've had people from Canada, from Spain, from Philly, from Miami come stay with us, and we just ride bikes and we share the same passion. And it's this cycling has I remember when I bought my bicycle and I told my coworkers, and they looked at me like I'm talking about this bicycle like it was a Ferrari. And each time I would go to work, I'm like, man, I just climbed this thing. I just did this PR. I just did this. I think I'm only going to work for, maybe 2 more years, because cycling is really making me think differently about life. Like, we only have this one opportunity in life. And I really love cycling, the way it makes me feel. And then it was from 2 years to a year and a half to a year. And not even 6 months later, I quit my job from 15 years, what I did. And it was because of a bicycle. And who would have thought that a bicycle would make me feel this way?
Wow.
So I am very grateful for a bicycle, for my business partner, for everything that this bike has brought, because I've met a lot of really cool people.
I'm sure. I am sure. I just think that's a wonderful story. I think, and you said something that you made me think is applicable to people just in recovery in general, and that is to challenge yourself every day and set goals and, do more than you did the day before. Do you know what I mean? Because I know that
Absolutely.
people who are sober, like they really have to look at it one day at a time. But I like the whole mentality of what you've been doing, which is really to challenge yourself, if I may evaluate for you. And it's just very well done to you.
Yeah, correct. I mean, the most important thing is to really check in with yourself the morning of, and really write down what it is that you want to accomplish that day, or what do you want to accomplish that week, or what your goals are, because words are very powerful.
Yep.
When I told my mom I'm an addict, and when I told her, I promise you I'm going to quit, those words were very powerful. And so I kept my word and I did that. And I told her, the next thing I told her was, I promise that someday I'm not even going to have to go to the United States anymore. I will live here where I'm the happiest. And I've done that now. And also a huge thanks to my business partner for making it happen. And now I'm here. So those words were powerful. And then I told my mom that, Mom, I'm going to impact so many people here in Colombia that, like, something big is going to happen. And I feel it. And the people around me feel it when they say, Jonny, you carry some energy about you. And I love it, because honestly, I see people here. They make me feel happy. They in the mornings, everyone's always saying good morning. Everyone's happy. A lot of people are exercising. It's just, it's very humbling. It's very humbling.
I get it. Jonny, thank you for sharing your story with us. Can you say the name of your inn? Because I'm assuming that people could find your hotel here, but I didn't quite catch it.
Okay, so right here it's La Villa Medellin.
Okay.
You can find us on Instagram, La Villa Medellin.
Okay, spell La Villa though, right? Villa?
Yeah.
I know you're saying
correct.
It properly, but okay. And how do you spell, and I think we say Medellin here, don't we? Is it Medellin?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to tell the people listening who don't have the same accent you do, La Villa Medellin, or La Villa Medellin if you talk like Jonny. Thank you so much for talking to us today. I really appreciate you sharing your story, and I know it's going to help other people. Your stories, you had to reach rock bottom, you did, but you turned it around, and you turned it around quite well, I might add.
Yes. I mean, for the people that are listening that perhaps are struggling, is we can all do it, right? You have to really believe in yourself, and you have to check in with yourself and really look at your surroundings. Like, where are you? Who are your friends? That's what you need to check in. Maybe you have to make adjustments, and, when we're comfortable, we stay there. And in order to, to progress, we have to be uncomfortable and situations to better ourselves. So please check in with yourself, find things to motivate yourself, write in a journal, read positive books, find new friends, but you guys can do it too. Believe me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today. I wanted to give you the website where you can find Jonny's inn, as he says, La Villa Medellin,
we would look at it La Villa Medellin. And so the website is LAVILLAMEDELLIN.bike. So if you are a cycler, or even if you aren't, if you're in recovery, Jonny was saying that they do yoga, they do all kinds of fun things at this inn. Again, it's La Villa Medellin.bike, B-I-K-E, or as Jonny says it, La Villa Medellin.bike. Thank you so much for listening. If you or someone you know needs treatment, please reach out. Please get help now. That's the whole reason why we do this podcast, is to help people get clean and sober. Jonny has done it. You can do it. Your loved ones can do it. It's just going to take a little bit of work. We'll be back again next week with another interview. Thank you so much for listening.
You have been listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information, reach out to us on Facebook or go to www.theaddictionpodcast.com. Our email is theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com.